It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today we're going to be using Team Concrete, the nickname for the team I came up with for this PvP setup. We are using Wildberry with Hazelnuts because we want to make sure we have good damage resistance since we're getting that from many different team members. And we want to have critical resistance in case we're fighting burst teams because those attacks can come in fast. We have Financer running a full cooldown set, mostly focused just to get that skill off to Clotted Cream, increase the power, increase the shield output. We have Caramel toppings for Caramel Arrows so that we have attack speed and damage output out the wazoo. We have Clotted Cream running attack with a high cooldown and damage resistance focus so that when pumped up from Financer is just laying AoE damage into the field. And we have Cream Unicorn running damage resistance and cooldown, but if I could, I would put attack speed on there to increase the auto-atteal and the overall potency of Cream Unicorn as well on the team. So let's go ahead and take this into battle and show you what is happening and how the team is working. So Cream Unicorn is protecting Wildberry. Wildberry is helping protect the team. Financer is protecting Clotted, and Caramel Arrow is being protected by Wildberry and Cream Unicorn. And just it's a good blend of damage altogether. As you can see, we don't really get hit too hard. I mean, we're fighting someone in our similar rank right here at 7,900. We've barely dropped below 80% health, and we've demolished their team. So if we look at the stats of it, we go in. Caramel Arrow is doing the most damage, not terribly too far behind by Clotted Cream. Yes, their Caramel did more because of the weakness provided by Eclair, so that's of course going to pump their Caramel up. They also are probably running either critical toppings or attack toppings. Our focus is speed. We want to make sure that the enemy dies as quick as possible so that we can cripple and weaken their specific team members so that they don't have really a chance to do too much to us. So in this case, Caramel was able to take out Espresso before Espresso really got good hits off. Clotted was able to take out their Wildberry before Wildberry could really present a threat to us either. So even though they had a good team and a meta team, we were able to just crush it completely. So let's keep running through. Main thing is with the Hazelnut build on Wildberry, it's a tricky build because you're not going to be fighting teams that always have critical attacks. And so for that reason, like in this instance, Wildberry's taking a lot of damage because it's just regular damage. So sometimes you might want a secondary build if you know what you're fighting, or at least have a good idea of what you're fighting, because maybe you need a full damage resistance almond build because you know you're going to be fighting a regular damage heavy team. But the Hazelnuts are really good on Wildberry because of the self damage resistance added and because of the damage resistance added from Cream Unicorn as well. So if you're fighting a very critical heavy team like this one, we have criticals from Vampire, we have criticals from Espresso potential, we definitely have criticals very potential from their Caramel Arrow. So our Wildberry is not taking as much damage this time because we're defending against the critical hits. So that's why the Hazelnuts work out pretty well. You still need high damage resistance on them to make it really, really work, but nonetheless, it's going to be helpful in certain situations against critical foes. Now, as you can see though, since our team wasn't quick enough to fight down their team, their Espresso got to go full blown and was probably also buffed up by their Financer, and that's why that was just a bloodbath on our end of the field. Their Caramel Arrow did do pretty well, mostly just because it survived longer than ours did, but their Espresso just outclassed everybody from that attack buff. So really, what could have helped here is if we had, instead of Wildberry, just another damage dealing source like they did, because you got to think, we're not running any magic candies on our end, and they're running 2. And I've said before, and I'll still say it for probably a decent amount of while, if you're fighting an enemy team that has 2 magic candies, and you don't have any magic candies, you're going to have a hard time winning. They do technically have the advantage because they are buffed up team members that are performing at near legendary levels because of how powerful the magic candies are. So do keep that in consideration when you're about to fight an enemy team, because if you don't have any magic candies, you might be at a disadvantage. It really depends on what their setup is, but that is in most cases going to be what happens. Is you're going to be either at a stall or at a disadvantage because they have technical superpower advantages. Not that it's unfair, because you can go run those units too, but nonetheless, just be understanding and aware that that is a potential to come across. But as a team like this that's meta, they're 6,403 position. They are running no magic candies, and we're able to just absolutely obliterate the majority of their team. And they had a tank killer team too. They had Sorbet. They have critical damage from Caramel Arrow. They have weakness from Eclair. Didn't matter. They didn't have any magic candies at all. So because of that, we had total dominance of that match. Wildberry just died because they have a tank killer on their team and high damage from Caramel Arrow, pumped up by weakness and Financer. So a lot of frontal forward focus attacks, but Clotted is that counter anyway, so we were able to just counteract what they were doing. In fact, our Caramel Arrow actually was even more damage outputting than theirs. And if you look at the healing too, we were able to out-heal their Cream Unicorn by a good deal. So is there any specific feedback on this team? Any questions or concerns that you just don't understand? Do you think that there's specific toppings that you can run that will work better? If so, I'd like to hear your opinion on why. Obviously, the safe bet is always solid almonds. I mean, you can run those on every single cookie in the game, and it's not necessarily going to be a bad thing, but is it really synergistic to the point where you're going to be taking to the high upper ranks in battle? Is it going to work out in that favor for you? I'm not so sure about that. In fact, I've been trying to run a lot more of my teams without almonds. If you haven't noticed in the last few PvP matches, I'm trying to find combinations that can really not depend so much on so much damage resistance for an entire team for it to work. Sometimes that's hard, but I'd still like your feedback and your opinions. I'd love to see how you think about this team. Is it something that you would, particularly run? I mean, as you can see, I'm still jumping up in ranks, entering the top 5,000 soon, just with this team, just pushing through. That's why I nicknamed it Team Concrete, because it's thick as a wall and it hits like a brick. So it's fun. It's really well blended together. It meshes well together in its movements and its skill activations. It just really works. And I really like the team. So it's something I'll probably use for a little bit until there's some good units to counter it, or some really shaky changes in the meta, which I'm sure will happen in like 5 to 10 days. So we'll see. Either way, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope this team is fun for you, and I hope this video has been helpful. And thank you again. Have a wonderful night.